Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Authors, plural today. I'm so excited. We have both Piper and Rayne here today. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever had two different people, so I'm really excited about this. Really excited to see how this goes. And I just like to start off with an easy icebreaker question when I typically do these. So I have to ask you guys, really basic question. Do you prefer vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate, always.
But,
Always chocolate.
mhm.
I think I like chocolate, like the candy itself better, but when it comes to flavored things, I'm a vanilla girl. I can't help it. Vanilla cake, vanilla ice cream. I'm always gonna steer that direction.
Oh,
I'm always going. I will like if someone's like, "Do you want ice cream?" Sure. We just have vanilla. I would be like, "That's okay. Thanks, anyways."
My fiance could never pass up ice cream. He'd be like, I don't care what kind it is, just
yeah,
it. Well, again, thank you guys so much for coming on here. First and foremost, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Piper, if maybe you want to go first and just kind of about yourself and really what got you into writing.
Okay. I started writing back in 2012, first published in 2013, under the name Elizabeth Grace. And what really got me started, I always loved writing as a kid. And what really got me started was I had been sort of mulling it over for a bit. And then I had a friend pass away from cancer in his early 30s. And that was really the impetus for me to actually do something about it. I had thought about it. I had two small kids at the time, and I thought, I'll wait till they get older before I do this writing thing to give it a go. Like they need their mom right now, and that's all true. But so I started getting up at like before work at like 4 a.m. to write because I sort of was a realization that like maybe you don't have all the time you think you're gonna have. And so that for me was really what made me like sit down and be serious about publishing. So yeah, I live in Toronto, well, just outside Toronto in Canada. And and we started writing together in 2017 is when we published. And so we've been writing together ever since.
Awesome. Rayne, your turn.
so I'm much like Piper. I did want to write when I was a little younger, right? I just never explored it for some reason. I don't know if it was like lack of self-confidence or what. I went to college, did like social work, and then when 50 Shades came out, I couldn't find the book anymore, and everybody was like talking about it. And so my husband had bought me a Kindle for Mother's Day, and so I read it there. And then I just started. Then my reading thing kind of came back into like addiction. I had two small kids too. I have twins, so they were like, I think they must have been like 4 maybe at the time. And so and as I read, I started to see like people were it was self-publishing. It wasn't like the publishing houses. And so I just did a little bit of research, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to try my hand at it. I'm just going to write a book and then put it out there. And again, I was started 2013. I started is my first published book under Michelle Lynn. Mhm.
That's awesome. And I love that you guys, have different stories. What kind of brought you guys together to decide? You said your first published book was 2017, but you were writing before. What kind of brought you guys together to decide to be a writing duo?
We shared an editor, so like we actually met at our very first sign together in 2014. And Piper was really big in like the indie community. Like she got like a bunch of indie authors kind of together into one group, and like we kind of just all share like inspirations, things to help, like fix. You know what I mean? Like when you needed help to do something, have you had experienced this? Blah blah. And then she approached me. We had talked about it a couple times, but never really did anything about it. And then she approached me in 2016, asked me if I wanted to co-write, and I said yes.
The rest is history. That's awesome. So kind of how does that work for you guys? Again, this is my first time doing an author interview with two different people. So how is that structure? Do one of you like to, I've seen, a different author group that they like to like, one of them writes, they call it the bones, and then the next person puts in like the organs, and you go back and forth. Or how is that, process for you guys when it's writing a book together?
I actually love that description. I might steal that when people start asking again. But that's basically what happens is one person we will plot the book together. And then one person will write lead on it. So they'll do the rough draft. And then once that's done, they pass it off to the other person who sees it through. They'll do the revisions, send it to the editor, and then it goes through 2 edits with that person as well as a proofread. And then in a perfect world, there's time for the person who wrote lead to read through the whole thing to make sure they're like fine with any changes that were made. And so that's how we do it. We tried at the beginning, we kind of tried a few different things, but this is basically what we settled on that works best for us because we produce at such a quick rate of books. We need something that flows very easily, and this seems to be it for us.
Do you guys find that like one of you prefers to be like more of the rough draft writer and one is more the editor? And you kind of go back and forth just depending on which book you feel more strongly about?
Yeah, when we do series, so like a series, like one person is designated that series. I don't know, because I feel like when we first started, I did more rough and Piper did more editing. So, but now, like, and so when I went back to then when she started doing roughs and I went into the edit, I remember it was like kind of like a learning curve for me because I really hadn't done that, and since I had published myself, right, to go
Yeah.
back through and like perfect, you know what I mean? So, and maybe that was harder for her too for rough draft. I don't know, but like,
Yeah, I've always enjoyed revisions, like even when I wrote by myself. A lot of authors don't enjoy the revision process, but that was always my favorite part. I just felt like you're like every pass you're just making it better and better, like, you know. And so I always enjoyed that process. So I don't think I really enjoy one more than the other, but I would say the revisions feels less taxing on my brain just because I think it comes easier, like more naturally easier to me, and I just enjoy that process a little more than like a rough draft probably.
So what's the process like for you guys? You know, you said you plot the books together. Is it, you know, you both like maybe one of you has the concept idea and then you're like, okay, hey, I think, you know, I would really like this book. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Or do you think we could write a series off of this? Like, what's that process like? Being like, okay, we're starting fresh, we're starting new. Let's get a plot going.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Like one of us comes with an idea, and then, or sometimes it's like I don't know. It's crazy now that we've been working, so I almost feel like sometimes we have the same idea. Sometimes it's kind of weird. But now we plot, so we weren't always plotting so far in the future. Now I feel like we do plot kind of far into the future, and then we like really plot out. I mean, like before it would be like this is the 3-book series we're gonna do, and then when that series was over, like maybe at the final book we'd be like, okay, what's the next book we want to do? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, like she came up with the Single Dads Club when we wrote that one. I really had tried. I wanted like a meddling grandma and like try to do a family series, so that's when we did the Baileys. So I mean, it just depends. Yeah.
That's awesome. So who kind of had the concept for starting the Chicago Grizzlies series? I'm curious. Where did that one come from?
That came about, well, that was sort of accidental, to be honest, because Miles was supposed to really be book 4 in the Kingsmen what is it, Kingsmen
Football Stars.
thank you, series. And we had planned to kind of pluck out 2 other characters that were in that series, and we just weren't feeling them. Like we were just, when we got closer to like having to write Miles's book, probably book 2 and then early book 3 when we were writing it, it was just like we're just not feeling these people. Like they don't have a story. Like we could manufacture, like they just didn't have a story, which maybe sounds weird because you could just figure out a story and put that person's name to it, but it just like we just weren't feeling it. So, but we knew readers would really want Miles' book because we had sort of threaded that in from book 1. So we didn't want to leave people hanging. So we thought, how can we write Miles' story and get 2 new people to write about that we can like intentionally create, that we want to write their stories? And so that's when we decided that he would get traded from San Francisco to Chicago, and that he would be book 1 of a new football series. Yeah. So I mean, really, you could read them in tandem, like just like, you know, as a 6-book series if you wanted, but we decided to send Miles packing.
Everyone
Miles.
Everyone loved you in San Francisco. Sorry, but bye. You're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, obviously we're talking about the Chicago Grizzly series, so I wanted to show these beautiful covers, and then I'll ask a question. But I have the paperback of Something Like Hate, the pink. I'm obsessed with this. I love the football, but also our man here is very, very attractive. The abs, I'm eating it up. I absolutely love it. So I have to ask, you know, obviously with this book you have a people cover, and then you also have a discreet cover. What is that process like for you guys, deciding to go and like pick the covers and then being like, okay, this is what we want, or deciding to do 2 covers? You know, some people just do people, some people just do discreet. What made you guys, you know, want to have 2 for this series?
Sure. The market had kind of shifted. We never used to do that. And so the market shifted around the time we started the first football series and then our like Starlight, which is like a small town series. And so that's when we started doing the discrete covers because I think there's just sort of because of the TikTok effect, there's sort of an influx of younger readers who don't want to the Hot Guy app cover like be out in public. You know, they're very much paperback readers. I'm still not sure that's our audience regardless, but so that's the reason why we decided. It's just like market trends change. It's the same as when we decide to recover an old book like with a new cover. It's just like something in the market has changed and you want to still be competitive, and so you got to roll with the times basically.
That's awesome. And so do you guys have a lot of say when it comes to, picking out the covers, or is it more of like, you have an idea, but someone else, does the thing and you're just like, oh yeah, that works?
Yeah, and we definitely have our ideas, but I mean, we kind of do leave a lot up to the designer. I mean, it used to be that we would pick out the models, right? And we'd buy the model photos. That's actually a stock photo of the football guy. But now, I mean, especially when it comes to discreet, I feel like we do often lend to the designer and like say like, what are you feeling? What are you know what I mean? Like this is what we're thinking, but I don't know if it's gonna work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they know more than we do.
Yeah. And we're just really blessed to work with her. So when she sends it, we're like, that's wonderful. That's great. Like we like 90% of the time don't make any changes. We're like, that's perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, she's a great designer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're having to write the whole book yourself. So when it's coming to what's on the front, you're like, I'm gonna let someone else worry about that.
Yeah, right.
Make sure my words are good and what I want them to be. That's awesome. Well, I have a question I always like to kind of ask people too, especially, and it'll be interesting, with two of you guys. Do you feel like people from your real life and insert them into your books, or do you try to like just keep that away and everyone that you write about is, more fictional, manufactured?
For me, it's more fictional, I think now. Like maybe when I first started writing, I might have taken a personality here or there. But I feel like now it's pretty much fictional. I don't think there's any. I mean, like maybe I would take like a trait or a quirk or something of somebody I know, right? But for the most part, I think it's just
Yeah, I think the same. It's like a trait or quirk. Like in one of our books, the heroine always has M&Ms in her purse. Like that's a personal thing from myself. And so, and like more, I would say like situations. If a friend like tells you a story about somebody at work and this is what happened, like little tidbits like that, might provide inspiration. Of course, you change things just because it probably doesn't work perfectly for your story. But yeah, I've never taken anybody that's like, I'm going to carbon copy this person in my life into this character.
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, I will say something that's like a little bit off of it than that, but like I will take situations, something that I'm doing at the time, right? So like a show that we're watching, like we're big Bravo people, so usually you'll see like somebody's watching Bravo, and then like
or Dateline,
whatever show was on at the time, right? Like whatever the Bravo show is, or like if I went to do something like if I went like bowling with my kids, maybe you'd actually end up seeing that in the book. You know what I mean? Like as I'm bowling, then like something's coming into my head. You know what I mean, or something like that, or.
I like that though. You're taking real things from real life so that people in there feel real too. And it's like, I just did this today, so why can't my character do this today? Feels more of a connection too. So when it comes to writing, I know again you guys said someone normally does like the rough draft and the editing. Do you guys find that you prefer to write at home, or do you like to go other places? I love asking this because I've heard so many people say that they can only write at writers' retreats, or they can only write at their house, or they can only write at coffee shops. So it's really interesting to see, where your brain works best.
Yeah. I can only write on this character. like that's it. I always have great intentions if we are traveling or going to signings and things, and I just cannot do it. And even at a coffee, there's just too much stimulation. I don't have music on, like it's like silent when I write. So anywhere else besides here is just, I think there's just too much going on for me.
Yeah, I used to be able to write anywhere. I mean, I would write at my daughter's swim. I would write at my son's. I would write anywhere. And then COVID hit. And so now it's like my desk only. Like I can only write at my desk, and that's it. You know what I mean? I do listen to music when I write, though. I don't. But so maybe that's why I would always have headphones in if I was like somewhere, But yeah, I'm only at my desk now since COVID. That's like I can only write there.
That's funny too, that you guys have different places. It's like yours is your couch and yours is your desk. And it's like, don't switch it up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, talking a little bit more about something like, hey, again, this just came out in September. So, what was this like for you guys? I know you said you decided from the last series that you wanted Miles to kind of have a fresh start in a way and bringing Bryce and everything in for him. What is it like, starting a new series and having just so many opportunities to kind of open up with all of these characters?
I mean, I like it. I love Rayne First series. This one was actually a little bit even nicer because you felt like you knew the characters a little bit more. Like I always say when we get to our third book in the series, usually that's when you're finally like, oh, like I really know these characters really well. It's easier to write it. So I guess maybe that's a little bit was easier with the Miles and the Bryce thing too, because we knew them from 3 books, and the Kingsmen. But I love like developing all like the new characters and their quirks and like trying to like show like little teasers for the readers to see for their books they're gonna come for 2 and 3, But Piper.
Yeah, no, I think the same. I didn't write lead on this one, but I wrote lead on the Kingsman, which led into this one. So it was the same. Like it's fun creating a new world and sort of like it's just open, like you can do whatever you want. You can have them hang out wherever you want. You can have the personalities be whatever you want. So it's always exciting. I feel like sometimes that first book takes a little long. Like each book in the series as you're writing, it goes faster because like you don't have to think about, okay, you don't have to pause and think, how would this character react to this? Like you already know because you know these people so well. So you know who's going to have the one-liner, who's going to like, be grumpy, who's gonna like, because you just know they're like people in your life, so you know how they're going to react. So it's fun at the beginning and then it's easier at the end of a series.
Totally understand, especially if it's like a longer series, like the Bailey series. There's so many of those books. You get towards the end and you're like, these characters are your best friend. You know everything about them from beginning to end because you've been with them for so long that like as a reader, obviously it's a little bit different, but you read a longer series and some people are like, I can't stand longer series, and I love them because again, that book 4, 5, 6, and you're like, I literally know everything about you. I know what you're going to say situation. And it's so good and it's so fun. Something I loved about this book, the banter and like the enemies to the tension in this book. Do you guys find that you have like, that's one of my favorite tropes, at least, is like enemies to lovers tension, which is when you can feel it and you're like, all right, just kiss already. Do you guys feel like you have a favorite trope maybe to write that like when you decide this is what it's going to be for this book, you're like, oh yeah, this one's easy. This one I can do this with my eyes closed.
Yeah, for me, enemies to lovers, like I could do that all day, every day. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites to read. It's one of my favorites to write. And brother's best friend, I always like that one too. I those would probably be my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I love enemies lovers too. I also love second chance is big for me. You know what I mean? Like I love like the heart of that is mostly what I love. But yeah.
That's awesome, especially if it's a second chance done right. Sometimes you see them done and it's like, I don't know if I would have actually given you a second chance. If I was the main character here, I don't know if I would have trusted you again, but I'm glad they did. But when it's done right and you're like, oh, my heart. Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect how you said, the heart of it. That's really good. So, with this series, again, do you, when you're plotting out a book, a whole series, do you plot out every single book at once, or do you just kind of go, hey, we're starting with something like, hey, here's kind of the ideas that I have for this, and then the next one is something like less? Do you put them all at the same time? Like, here are the characters, here's going to be their tropes, here's all that stuff, or is it you figure it out as you go?
Yeah, we do characters and tropes for sure. The titles are done. We don't plot like maybe necessarily the book 2 and 3 yet. Like we'll know primarily like kind of what's going to happen, but not detailed until we get to that book.
We will though talk about how we're going to thread in, like put hints. To what their story is, like how we're going to thread it into the
like we knew Damon was going to be, the player, because we knew what his story was going to come up to be, and we knew Ellery and Cooper were going to be, friends, you know what I mean? Like best friends. So, yeah. But like, as far as like, like where the mid plot is and where the black moment is, it all happens after, and once we're on that book, once we're writing that book. Yeah.
That's exciting. So I know, the marketing for this one was with Valentine and everything. It was really fun. How is that exciting for you guys? Seeing people opening book boxes and like getting excited about your book, it's a little different, I'm sure, than, when you were first self-publishing. How has that change been fun for you?
I will say in a general sense, we don't love marketing ourselves or our books. Like if we're really honest, like we're just not like, look at us and this is the best book ever, you have to read it. Even if we think that, like that's not what we're going to be front facing, right? And so the PR boxes that we sent out felt like an easy way to just get the word out, where like it's not us being like, hey, like this is great, we love this book and you should read it. But it was a lot of fun coming up with the stuff in those boxes, like figuring out what to put in and all of that. But yeah, I would say marketing's a little bit of our like Achilles heel, probably.
The boxes turned out beautiful and we love them.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, we just it's not our strength, let's say. We're better writers than we are marketers.
I've noticed, with like your TikTok and things too, that it's kind of become a trend that a lot of times, that's where authors have to, unfortunately, market themselves a lot in their newer books, because it takes, one video and it blows up, and then like everybody is going and ordering your book. And so I've noticed you guys have some of those, fun little videos that's like the football field or whatever, and you have like scenes from that. How do you go about, who does more of the social media, I guess, for that? Is it like, do you take turns, or is it like, no, you're better at that, like you pick the scene and I'll just trust you?
Well, we don't even do our TikToks because we suck. No, we hired somebody because we were just like you might see me pop up on the odd one, like my face, but those don't do well. So then I'm like, so see, like, why should I even bother with this? So yeah, first of all, we only have so much time and we release a lot, so we just really can't do anything. If we respond to comments on TikTok and stuff, that's us, but we're not putting the content up there. Like we're not creating the content to put up there, because we're old and not as in tune with that, I guess. So yeah, but on Instagram and Facebook, we do all that. Our PA will be the one that schedules the posts, but we're the ones interacting and responding and doing all that. So, but like I said, it goes back to us like not really feeling great about marketing ourselves in our books.
Yeah. I can understand that, especially, obviously I'm the younger generation, so I'm like having to use TikTok. But even then, I joke all the time, like even the career that I'm in is so heavily like in technology. I'm like, for someone who should know all of this, I don't even know how. Like I have to learn different things on TikTok all the time too, and I'm like, what is this now?
Yeah, like I went to go post something last week and I'm like, it's all different. Like I'm very often asking my teenage daughter, like, can you show me how to do this? And she's just like, just give it to me. She just like doesn't like, okay, thanks. So yeah, I mean, I love watching TikToks, but just not so much producing them.
Totally understand that. So what, I guess this is a question for each of you, so you can take turns answering. What is a normal day kind of in your life like? When you said, obviously you guys write and you put out a ton of books, what is that normal, day and timeline of when you're writing, when obviously you're both moms, so you have to take care of your children too? What does that look like for you?
For me, like, well, my kids are a little older, so they're like freshmen in high school now, so like they can keep themselves busy, so it's a little bit nicer. So it's but I still pretty much am like a 9 to 5. So like, yeah, I mean, I am like a procrastinator, so I'm different. Like Piper is like, she could tell you probably minute by minute her schedule. For me, I'm just kind of like, well, if it's a writing day, it's a writing day, or if I get distracted by something early on, then it's not going to be a writing day. And then like, until I get to 2 weeks before the book, and then every day is a writing day. Especially the last week will be like big writing days, and that's not that will be like my whole day, and my kids can't come in my room and stuff. But yeah, so it's pretty much always different for me. But Piper's more of a she'll tell you like hour by hour.
Well, I feel like that's just because like Rayne's probably nicer. Like she like I could see your kids coming like, Mom, can you do this? And you'd be like, sure. And I like my kids know like I'm gonna snap their heads off. Like if they come in, if I said don't bug me, like and you're coming in, like the house better be on fire kind of thing. But yeah, no, I'm up early. Like I have sleep issues, so I'm generally up pretty early. If I'm writing, I'll write early. I like to get a good amount of words in before I have to take the kids to school. So generally my morning would be writing, and then my afternoon would be like, just admin crap, like, socials, admin stuff, marketing, like whatever stuff, responding to emails, things like that. So that's generally how my day is structured, because I'm like Rayne. I can't, like, she can pound out like 10,000 word days back to back to back if she has to. And I am not like that. I'm like I need to be like a fairly steady Eddie with my writing. So I have to just keep on top of it.
Totally understand the whole scheduling out your day thing. Every single day, even on my off days, I'm like, I'm gonna wake up at 7. I'm gonna go to the gym at 8. I'm gonna.
Yep. Same. I'm like that. Yeah.
But then I'm also a little bit of Rayne, because if it's like 8:05, I'm like, oh well, I was gonna go to the gym at 8, but now it's 8:05. So I guess I'm going to like, gotta wait a whole fresh hour.
Yeah.
Right at 9:00.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Okay, I have a hard question for you guys.
Okay.
And I know that sometimes authors are like, you can't ask me that. It's like picking kids. Do you
Um,
have a favorite character that you've had from any of your books that you've ever written, or was just like the easiest, or that you felt the closest to?
mhm.
Top of mind for me, because it was very easy to write this book. I was excited to write the book, and it was very recent. So it's kind of top of mind, would be Chase Andrews, which is like the third Kingsmen Football. That was like a best friend's little sister story, and he was like a big muscled guy, grumpy sunshine story. I love a grumpy sunshine. So that for me, he's definitely one of my favorite characters for sure.
I don't really know, honestly. Yeah, I mean, there are those books that come a lot easier to you. You know what I mean? Like, but honestly, like, I don't know. But it's usually always like the refined Playboy. That's like the Playboy. It's always every single time. Like, I think Damon's gonna win me over when I write this book. But that's always those. But they do come easier to me too to write. Right? Like, I think of like Dane from Single Dads. And who was it, Carm from the Collar Brothers. So yeah. I mean, but maybe Luca from Engaged to the EMT, maybe.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see why you say that.
Yeah.
I know it's a really hard question. I just like to
Yeah.
for you guys, you have again so many. It's like you have to go back, and I feel like I've talked to a few authors too, and they're very much like, you even ask you guys are obviously at the beginning of a series right now, but someone in the book 4 or book 3 of a series, and you're like, how do we even I love those characters, but I'm so far ahead, like plotting and writing, like, I don't even remember what was going on then. Like, and you have so many different stories that do you feel that you had not just character wise, but like a book that for one of you, that was just like the easiest to write, that you could just remember, oh yeah, that book, like I flew through that book, it was so easy?
I know you have one, Rayne. Yeah.
Oh, I have. So there was Mad About the Banker, which was third in our Modern Love series, and I mean, I don't know. I think I wrote it in 8 days, and it just crazy, like
it's a long book too for us.
Yeah, and some of our longer books, it was just like, I mean, I remember being like, man, I'm like just like 8,000. I'm just like a day, like not even like thinking anything of it. Like, I don't know, they just came to me like so easy. You know what I mean? But,
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like honestly, I think one would be Hit or Miss, which we wrote under the pen name Everly Ashton, and then the Chase Andrews one was just like, it was easy. Like there was sometimes you're writing, even if you like the book, there's just, I don't know, there's just like a lot of friction. Like you feel like when you're writing, and that was like, there was none. Like I was just like floating through air. There's no friction. It was just fine. So more recently, definitely would be the Chase Andrews book. Yeah, which is probably why he's my favorite, because he gave me no problems.
You're my favorite. You were easy.
Yes.
I didn't want to strangle you. Be like, what are you doing next?
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, we're kind of starting to wrap up here. Do you guys have anything that you maybe want to say to readers, or just about not only this series but some of your other books?
Yeah, I think a good place if you want to check us out is to go to our website, which is piperrayne.com, and there's a little extras tab there which has all our freebies. if you click, there's probably guessing 4 or 5 freebies right now that you can grab because we have such an extensive backlist. So you can give us a try free of charge.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. And you said where you can find, the website. Where else can readers find you? If they want to maybe connect with you on social media or Facebook or things like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Piper. You go.
Okay. Yeah, you can find us on Instagram. And we were most active, I'd say, on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Piper Rayne's Unicorns. And that's very like a really active group. So there and on Instagram is probably where you'll find us the most. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for coming on today. And again, something like Hey is out now. Go read it. You're going to absolutely love it. Especially it is like perfect time. It's football season. We're in the middle of college football and the NFL. So you don't have a better time to read it than the present. So definitely recommend people go read that. And again, just thank you guys so much. I had so much fun with you today. And you're my first time having 2 people and it went so well. I loved it.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Michaela.
Yeah. And you guys remember to stay subscribed to me for all the future author interviews and more of my book reviews and more. And until next time, thanks, guys.